This new channel that I just start will be my way of trying to explain the world that we perceiving in everyday life. Very important part of our life is definitely religions amongst all the other part of our society, and the impact that religion made in our life is enormous. It's fundamental. It's uh, it's shaping our way of living. But what was actually religion? What is the substance of religion? And why it is so important, although if when you go into the heart of that darkness that is called the modern religion, you'll find out that it is the source of the all living evil things. In this episode of my program, I will be basically step into the Christianity, because although I'm not practicing Christian religion, I'm born in society that embrace Christianity as way of believing, way of thinking, way of perceiving the things, and shape the society as whole. Uh, by trying to find the source, by trying to find the first step, how religion came into our world, into our society, I was obviously faced with the Bible. My first um, my first meeting with the Bible and Christianity as such, because I was born in a family that in many ways embraced the freedom of thinking. My parents didn't tell me what to believe or not to believe. My first real challenge that put me into the world of religion was the book written by Erich von Däniken, and the book was called Chariots of Gods. When I start to read, although I never had any touch with the Bible as such, uh, I was shocked that in the Bible is said so many things that we can understand using the world of the 20th century in the certain action of God, the Yahweh or Jehovah, as people call this being that came to the Jews and established himself as a Jewish God. So, as a reaction of the book, of that book of Harry von Däniken, the Joseph Blumrich wrote his own book, which was called "And the Sky Was Open." Why it is so important, that book of Joseph Blumrich? Because Joseph Blumrich was a scientist. He was deeply involved in project NASA, Apollo program, let's put it that way. And the other, the other NASA programs in the space program, which was very fluently at that time. It was expanding the that science and rockets and the science of propulsion engines. And Joseph Blumrich was one of the top scientists. How he became so much involved in a Bible and Joseph Blumrich, Erich von Däniken. Although Erich von Däniken was a man from Switzerland, German origin, that he was actually hotelier and archaeologist amateur, archaeologist that with no any official knowledge. So, son of Joseph Blumrich, read the same book that I did, which is Chariots of Gods, in which was very explicitly uh, explained by one of the most famous Bible prophets, whose name is Ezekiel, in which he wrote about many meetings with the supreme being that he called God. Although sometimes they were in a group, sometimes was only one, himself, God, that communicate with the Ezekiel. And the son of the Joseph Blumrich was fascinated with that book. So Joseph Blumrich said, all right, I will now go into it and I will uh, diminish to the dust that book, that there were God that fly in the sky, that God that fly into the some kind of spacecraft, that spacecraft had some failures, and that God's machine was a very material, and that can be made even today with the technology that we now know, not the technology of the mid of the 20th century. So Joseph Blumrich start to study word by word prophecy of the prophet of Ezekiel that he meticulously wrote while the Jews were in 70 years in captivity by Babylonian kingdom. So translated these prophecies of the ancient prophet Ezekiel, he actually came after a certain period of time to the conclusion that in description of Ezekiel, what he saw while he was on captivity in Babylon, that he actually saw the real spacecraft machine that was manipulated by the certain being without not going deep into it, who that being was. Being very well educated, Joseph Brumich, he then take the Bible from the page 1 and start to find the many other events that that they are so similar in description, although there were vast time elapsed between those prophets that expand for many hundreds of years, that they talk and describe the machines that God Yahweh used it in while he was here amongst the people in material form, that many people could see him, that many people hear the terrible noises that his machine produce, and that many people were affected, literally killed by that machine, if they are not um, very careful and come too close to it. So Joseph Brumlich was found that the first appearance of the God with his powerful spacecraft was in the second book of Moses, in which God, while he was talking to Moses during the exile, he said to Moses, I will appear in a certain day of the Mount of Sinai. Please make sure that no any human beings except you yourself can come any closer than what I will uh, measure and tell you how range between me and the people, Israeli people, would be. Otherwise, they would be destroyed. In the next couple of days, on the mountain of Sinai, it appeared the powerful uh, engine with a lot of noise, lot of fires, lot of trembling, lot of shaking, which means that the engine that um was came down to the Mount of Sinai was extremely powerful. So it was the uh, time, first time that somebody in a clearly way uh, describe the descendant of the such powerful machine. Uh, Although the gods were seen even before that, during the Abraham era, when he was in a desert, the one day appeared three living beings, which Abraham recognized as a god and his two angels. And he said to his wife, Sarah, make some food and I will help you. Because look, there are three people in a distance. In a distance, he saw three people. But then they come closer. He said, no, no, they're God and two angels come to visit us. And it was so. So that three beings, whoever they might be, they were recognized by Abraham and his wife Sarah as God and two angels. God himself with the two angels sit in Abraham's tent and have a dinner with them, and that night he slept in Abraham's tent. And tomorrow morning he said, now I'm going, but two of my angels will go to the town of Sodom because Sodom should be destroyed. And then we know in the Bible where Abraham said, please don't destroy it if there is half of the population righteousness. And he said, no, I will not. If there is a 25% of the inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah is righteousness, would you kill all of them for the sake of Israel? And he said, no, I will not. And then if there is a 10 righteousness people, will you also spare them with all those evil people? And he said no. And then two of angels left, go to the Lot family, and as we know from the story, these two angels completely and utterly destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, obviously using some kind of very, very powerful bombs. In the 70s, 1970s, when archaeologists start to discover that Dead Sea, bedroom of Dead Sea, they actually find the 7 towns being destroyed, but some with using some sort of extraordinarily powerful forces. So that is one part of the appearance of the god during in that period of exile, before the exile, and aftermath. So Joseph Blumrich create a book in which he turned from the anti-Danican into Danican followers, talking that yes, in history, the gods have very, very powerful machines, that they were very, very material, and that they were very, very look like some of us. Last appearance of gods in a material, the material appearance, is with prophet Daniel, in which Daniel, prophet from Babylon, um, very often he was told to them on a river Tiger during his slavery. And in these meetings with these superior beings, although we don't know who they are, he even not always called them God or gods or angels. Sometimes he called them simply man dressed in a white suit that his face shine. Although it is not very precise description of God, we can with very high level of certainty may said that he actually told to those beings that they were not being human, that they were in that uh, Yahweh, uh, God of Israel, and then they suddenly disappeared. But what they left to the Israeli people as proof that once upon a time they were there is the one very, very mysterious object that goes all the way through history, and even today is makes such a huge controversy whether that sacral object is real. Those deeds exist at all, and what was the source of its power? That object is known as Ark of the Covenant. Ark of the Covenant was created during the exile during the exile of Israeli people from Egypt into the Palestine, and they were made by precise measurement that God gave it to the Moses. So the Israeli people made the Ark of the Covenant, and it at the first appearance it killed two people that comes too closer to it, which means that properties of that Ark of the Covenant were very, very powerful. After they put the Ark of the Covenant in a tabernacle, which is moving, moving, moving temple of um, moving temple to serve the Ark of the Covenant, the two very sons of Moses' brother Aaron, who was the supreme uh, spiritual leader, first to the Moses. After they came into the Holy of the Holies, which is the space where Ark of the Covenant rest, while the Israeli people settled, because they are not all the time on the move in a desert in that 14 years desert wandering. They came so close to that powerful machine and it killed both of Aaron's sons. While God talked to Moses on the Mount of Sinai, in which he gave him two tablets of the laws with inscription of the Ten Commandments written by the very good finger. When Moses came back, he saw the people that worshipping the golden bull. So in his anger, he broke both of these two stone tablets. And he said to God that he can't control these people because they are so weak in they obeying the God. So God Yahweh told him, come back, I will make you the new tablets, made different than previous. And Moses went there, spent 40 days and nights, while God, Yahweh himself, made the new tablets with the inscription that is unknown to us till today. And God tell him, all right, now you got two new tablets. Go back to your own people and put both of these tablets into the Ark of the Covenant, and no one except you should see these two tablets. And it was so. But what was happened when Moses came back? The leaders of the Israeli people, all 12 Israeli tribes, came to his tent to, to talk to him about what was happened during that 40 days while he was absent from the people, being with the God. But the Moses was different person. Moses' body was shine and illuminate the, the light that wasn't of this world. So all Israeli elders in shock ran away from him, went to his brother Aaron and said to him, the Moses was lighting, the Moses illuminate the light, whole his body was such a bright light that they cannot uh, nor comprehend nor can stand to look at it. And it's not that the same man. So Aaron went to his brother's tent, to the Moses tent, and he also witnessed that Moses became a shining body, but definitely not in a sense of human being. So Aaron said that the elders and the leader of the tribes are so frightened of his appearance that they cannot stand him being amongst them without certain sort of protection from the brightness of that light. So they made compromised that Moses will be covered, his body will be covered with a linen wheel, so that no one will see his face again, or even all his body. But never mind, even through this veil, there was still brightness light through it. And although Moses lead the people through that exile and through that uh, desert wanderings for another couple of decades, no one ever saw his face nor his appearance again. And it's also said in the Bible, the second book of Bible, that he his speech became so corrupt that no one could or hardly could understand what he said, except his brother Aaron. So what was these two mysterious things that were put in the Ark of the Covenant that make that item or whatever it is that Ark of the Covenant so powerful. During the wandering in the desert and long after that, the Ark of the Covenant was very, very powerful tool in a war that Joshua Navin that fought against the kings of Palestine and Samaria and all that land, promised land that God gave to them, except in a one event when the powerful army of Philistines uh, smashed the Israelis and captured the Ark of the Covenant. That was the only one known event that Ark of the Covenant was taken away from the Jews and being placed into the Philistine temple. But within the couple of weeks, the Philistine came to the Israelis and said, please take your Ark of the Covenant back. Why? Because we lost 50,000 people. How? By all sorts of diseases, but and the other unusual deaths that appeared as soon as men or group of men or group of people approached the Ark of the Covenant in certain manners that cannot be accepted by these machines. So Israeli took the Ark of the Covenant and brought it back to the Solomon Temple. Solomon created a temple just for the one sole purpose, and that is, as Solomon said, that is the last resting place for the Ark of the Covenant. In the year of 613, in the time of Israeli king Asa, he moved his ways away from the God Jehovah's as priest says, and he started to worship gods of the other people around, which cannot be accepted by Jewish priests, especially when he put the gravestones of the other gods, Astarte and the others, into the place of the temple. So the some radical priests simply take the Ark of the Covenant and move it away. Where did they took the Ark of the Covenant? At first time, the Ark was taken to the island of Elephantina and it was there about over 600 years before it moved towards Ethiopia. How do we know that the Ark of the Covenant was on the island of Elephantina? Because Jewish nation at that time. They don't build the temple except if the Ark of the Covenant is in that building. This is the first thing, and by the measuring the certain mathematical proportion of the foundation of that temple on the Elephantina, they knew that it is made by uh, by Jews, not by any other people, because that sacral mathematic proportions are only used in a First Solomon temple. Reason why the Jews left Elephantina and moved down south down southeast to Ethiopia, first to the Lake Tana and then in the Aksum as nowadays last resting place of Ark of the Covenant, which is still exists, still is in there in the Aksum. It is totally unknown, and truth how the Ark of the Covenant came into the hands of Falashas, which is one tribe on that plateau, Tana, around Lake Tana, is also unknown. But the truth is that Falashas since then possess that Ark of the Covenant. And they are in mid 60s, 70s of the 20th century. Yeah, actually the end of the 70s, the Israeli as a government, they made one huge operation to remove the probably, I don't know, around 35 to 40,000 of falashas into the Israeli, accepting them as Jews. Why? Because they found that the rituals that falashas used are close similar to the rituals that they've been used right up until the first of Solomon temple was destroyed 607 BC by Nabucodonosor. In the next part of my program, I will explain how the Ark of the Covenant affects so many people even today, and what is the truth about the true nature of the Ark of the Covenant, about its power, and what does that mean for the Christianity today. Thank you for listening.